Thank you, friends, and it is an honor and a privilege to be amongst you. And it is exciting that this conference today starts in Yamagandam, because Yamagandam was the time chosen to launch this event. I think the rather long introduction, not to my activism, but to the issues that humanists are having to handle in India right now, gives you a perspective of what is it that we are trying to fight. And constantly we are having to explain to people who humanists are and what they actually deal with. If we were to, in a few words, address the question, who are the humanists and who they are, one would say, like every other human on the planet, we are stardust. But unlike many others on the planet, we are children of reason. And as children of reason, we tune into what M.N. Roy called the rhythm of the cosmos. And it is by tuning into the rhythm of the cosmos that we get our ability to be rational, to tune into the universe and its workings. And because we understand the universe, we are able to understand the limits of our freedoms and the extent of the possibilities that are offered to humans to achieve, to try to achieve. The last 400 years have been the most continuous period when humans were able to exercise their ability to reason, to practice rationality, and we know how much we have achieved. Only a survey of the last 5 years gives us an idea of what we know about this seemingly boundless universe of 9 billion light years of extent. It is a size that is unfathomable to us, and yet it is we who have discovered its size. But we know that what we understand about the universe is likely to be revised, because that is the enterprise in which we are engaged as seekers of truth. If humanists are not seeking the truth, then they cannot be humanists. In fact, they cannot be human either. But what distinguishes the effort of any human seeking the truth and the humanist seeking the truth is the method of science, rationality, a claim to knowledge which will always be open for questioning, scrutiny, verification, and reasoning. That is what distinguishes us from everyone else trying to seek the truth. In this process, I think Bhaskar Garu has very clearly mentioned that our conference or the humanist enterprise is not specifically aimed at fighting with a religion, but it is aimed at fighting ignorance. And to the extent that religion will adopt and embrace ignorance, they will be in the firing line. But that's their problem, not ours. When you continue to make a claim on the flat earth basis, when you tell the world that it is the earth which is at the center of the universe, and that understanding should be the basis of how you build your house and when your daughter will get married, you will be in the crosshairs and you will suffer for that. Because the disinfecting power of reason and truth is going to exterminate and eliminate any false concepts of what the reality is. There can be no pity in trying to address claims which are not founded on fact. The last time that humanity allowed the nonsense of an ignorant claim to prevail, it was 1500 years of dark ages. Before the Christian church put the entire geographical area of Europe in its death embrace, before then, already by the time of Archimedes, Aristarchus had explained that in his idea, It was the sun which was the center around which the earth was revolving. 1500 years it took for Europe to again discover what Aristarchus said a long time ago. Because Joshua bade the sun stop, as you know, in the Bible. Because any claim to the truth which does not allow itself to be examined, challenged, questioned, or revised will become dogma and has become dogma. And that is not the plight only of those in the shadow of Christianity. Those who are living in the shadow of the superstition that has associated itself with Hinduism continue to suffer from it. And that what you saw on the video now is a reflection of the pangs of suffering that Indian society is going through simply because the vice-like grip of superstition on the minds of people. In that context, if we say who are the humanists, we will say humanists are those who fight the despotism of religious tyranny imposed on us so that our minds are close to the reality. Only 400 years and we already know how old the universe might be. We know how old the earth is. We know roughly when, give or take 1 crore of years, life may have started. We know of our ancestry, not simply of our own grandfathers and grandparents, but the ancestry of mankind. Not only do we know that, we also know and can celebrate the common humanity of each of us, those who agree with us, those who disagree with us, those who are of our gender or of the opposite, or those who are somewhere in between. All of us have one common mother who the scientists have tentatively named Lucy. And if tomorrow we have more scientific knowledge about Lucy, we might say Lucy was not our mother, she must have been our aunt. But the fact is, we all, those of us who we call humans, have a common ancestry in one mother. That mother who lived 200,000 years ago, somewhere in the east of Africa. A person possibly about 3 or 3.5 feet high, just so much. Not possibly able to walk straight, but sideways. I saw her skeleton. I saw her skeleton in Ethiopia. Doesn't feel like your grandmother, but that's what she was and is. How do we know that? We don't have a book to make that claim. A book written in a language which was wrongly translated and led to other myths and lies and deceptions. We know it because we learned to read the book of the universe. We don't read holy books. We read the universe as our book. We know it, we examine it, we find the facts, and we look into the mitochondria and where it came to us. And mitochondria comes to us from the mother, and all our mitochondria is the same. The fathers are not the same. It's only the mother who is the same. And that would have developed into a tribe of 10,000 people or so, who then kill all the other uncles and aunts and cousins of Lucy, and the ones who remain of that tribe is the one which has, the tribe which has populated all the earth, and that is who we are. What is the lesson we gain from this? That we have a common origin, that we are united in our common humanity, and therefore our human solidarity should extend to all that is human, because we all belong together. Show me one religion, one philosophy, one thought which can defeat the power of this understanding given to us from science. There is one which will tell you that the origin of the humans is from the head and the shoulders and the thighs and the feet. And some do not even get born that way and therefore are untouchables, outside the realm even of the discriminating hierarchy of the caste system. There is another who will tell you that they are the chosen tribe, and the chosen tribe is the one which will occupy the earth. Where is the sisterhood, the brotherhood that we would expect any moral teaching to give to us in these books? There isn't any. The claim that some religions at least talk of the whole world as a family ignores the actual fact that that claim is made on behalf of a caste, not on behalf of humanity. It is modern knowledge that tells us that we probably have 4 blood groups but not 4 varnas. It is modern science which tells us that we are united in our biology and in our origins. And then there is this unexamined claim, often refuted in our circles, that that's all right, that's about facts. What we are worried about is how we have to live, because your science has no guide or guidance to life. Oh, let's examine that claim as well. There is one which says that men and women are born unequal. How moral is that? There is another belief system which spent about 400 years wondering, debating, discussing whether women had souls. That answer held the key to many things, because if women had no souls, then they were not human. And if they were not human, then they need not have any equality. It took till 1974 in Switzerland for all women in that country to get the right to vote. So these are not beliefs which have no consequences. Every belief, every disbelief has a consequence that is powerful and impacts the human life. If we ignore a false belief, it will come back to bite you. Because we said that all humans are not born equal, we today have 25 crores of people, not just in India, but in the neighboring countries, and in 13 countries, who are not considered human and who are considered untouchable. Belief drives behavior. And if your belief is that humans are not born equal, so will you believe that humans should not be treated equal, and therefore that is how you would behave. So addressing the question of belief is a major challenge, and it is something that we have to take up, even when people tell us that it hurts their sentiments. I am sorry, the truth will not yield to your sentiment. It is your moral responsibility to change your beliefs as per the reality of the world. The reality of the world today is that we live on an earth with limited resources. We have done tremendously well as a race. We started 200,000 years ago with a family or a batch or a tribe or a cannibalistic group of 10,000 people. Yes, we started as cannibals. And today we are on this earth. We are 750 crores of people. That is a very successful race or a tribe. It's done pretty well. But the best moments of this tribe have been when it understood what its real, true humanity is. And that true humanity has always been expressed when the human was able to tune in with the real world and tune in to what I started today with, the rhythm of the cosmos. The pursuit of truth has become a mystical enterprise because it was divorced from the reality of the world. All religions, and we should accept it, all religions have sought to find the truth. But what is truth, if not, to quote that great philosopher again, what is truth if it is not the content of knowledge? And how will you get that knowledge? Shall you do it in the Himalayas with your nose closed and you not breathing? Will you close your eyes and try to see the reality? Or will you open your eyes and your mind to the splendors of the universe and try to plumb the depths of its facts and truth? The choice is open to us. Those of us who come from South Asia can have a kind of connection with that enterprise. Afghanistan, once Gandhara. Pakistan, which was home to Takshashila, that great university of long time ago. Nepal, which is where the Buddha was born, not in India, but in India where he died. Or Ajitakesa Kambali, who was in India. Or the Lokayatas, the Charvakas, those who lived in the area, the land, the geography and the culture we generally tend to associate historically with either Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, Sri Lanka. There the first attempts were made to deal with humanity and the universe as humans should be doing. That is where the first time, for the first time in the intellectual history of the world, the first people to say that matter cannot be created out of nothing came from. Those are the Sankhyas. And the Sankhyas made that claim, that you cannot create something out of nothing. Also, almost for the first time, because running parallelly were the Greeks, who did even more splendorous things, because they had a freer society then. And running parallel to that was the idea of the Vaisheshikas, that the universe was made of atoms, atoms that could not be divided anymore. Now, it doesn't matter much that the word atom of that time and the word atom of today seem to be the same. It doesn't even matter that they thought of something which is undivisible, and that was called the atom. What is significant in that development is that for the first time, to try to explain a natural problem and a question about nature, instead of invoking the supernatural, people were trying to give a natural explanation. That we were now on the path to offer a natural explanation to a natural question without the help of the supernatural is a unique achievement of the human mind. It is that achievement that we seek to celebrate, not the conclusion of that achievement, of that attempt. And then the great significance of the Buddha. The Buddha had a fantastic life, embellished through lots of mythology that came later. But the significance of the Buddha was for the first time. And here is his superiority in thinking, according to our terms, to even Socrates. Because the Buddha, of all the people that we can name, was the first one who was able to offer a morality which did not require a god. Remember that Socrates, just before dying in his death cell, asked his disciples and friends not to forget to fulfill his vow of offering a rooster in sacrifice to a goddess. The Buddha did nothing of that kind. The Buddhists did, and that's a different story of a tragedy. The Buddha himself spoke about the Eightfold Path and right living, and that was the first moral philosopher, extraordinarily still relevant to today's world. But the first moral philosopher was born and preached and taught and wandered in a land and a society which already was alerted to the idea that the universe need not have a god to explain it. And the Buddha added to that, saying, no more do you need a god, no longer do you need a god to actually have a moral, ethical behavior. That completes the story. And since the Buddha's time till now, we are struggling with what has been a perversity in the human enterprise, where the supernatural was being brought back and the human and the stature of the human was being diminished. If the Buddha inaugurated the first enlightenment in human history, the first attempts to explain the universe in natural terms, the first proposals to live honestly and live the good life without having the crutches of a god or the threats of a god, because all traditional religious morality is linked with what will happen to you after you die, because that is when the comeuppance of what you did in this life will find its expression in your next life. The difference is simple. The difference is humanism is focused on this life. Religion is focused on the next. And for that simple reason, we don't need it in this life. Those who are interested in religion can discover it after they die. Right now, this is where we are, and what matters is reality. And what matters is our morality, the common moral decencies that have come to us through ages, through millennia of human common living in society. That gives us morality, and it does not require any supernatural crutch. But as I was saying, it is not a supernatural crutch. It is a threat that you will be punished after you die, that you will go to hell if you do not behave in a particular manner. And there is not much for the modern human to learn from the traditional morality of hierarchical divisions of people, or the discrimination as per the gender of people, and the authoritarian dictatorship on the mind, which will not let you question any assumption that is given to you by religion, because it claims that it has a divine origin. And there are some words which religion uses all the time. About God we can discuss, about religion we have addressed, about morality we have addressed. And religion cannot survive without the idea of the soul. And we know today that there is nothing called the soul. Any morality, any concept of reality which is based on what is not the truth, what will not be verifiable by any investigation into facts, has no validity, has no relevance to our world. In this process, as the truth seekers based on knowledge started distinguishing themselves from the others, I think it would be right to say, broadly, we have two kinds of people in the world today. There are the people who are the people of the answer, and there are the people who are the people of the question. We humanists belong to the ones who are loyal to the question. There are others who are loyal to the answer. There is great dignity in the pursuit of the truth, and that can happen through questioning. There is no dignity in possessing the truth, and that is the problem of religion. Religion is an enterprise of answers, and these answers are permanent and never open for challenge or question or revision. Humanism is this continuous interrogation about the nature of reality, the content of that understanding we have about the universe, and a continuous interrogation about what the good life can be and should be. Today we have vicious forms of religion which have taken over parts of the world. Religion has also had its liberal moments. Religion has also had the possibility of supporting this same truth-seeking, this same discovery of the brotherhood of mankind. Sadly, religion never concentrated on creating an understanding of the sisterhood in mankind. It has always been the brotherhood. Show me one religion which has been established by a woman. All religions, all prophets, all revelations come to us actually from men who claim to have spoken to male gods. That is the problem of the human condition. A human condition that cannot ask questions, because right from childhood, right from birth, we are told these are the answers. We cannot ask a question of it, and we have to live that life. That is a life of mental slavery, and that is an immoral life, because there is morality in seeking the truth. There is no morality in receiving it from someone. The one enterprise that allows us to do it is the enterprise of science. Sadly, the great propagators of the nonsense that goes around in the world today are the practitioners of technology. I'm not talking of them. I'm not talking of the IT guys who need to pray to Ganesha before they start anything. I'm not talking of the IT guys who look at all kinds of auspicious times before they do something. Or at the time of signing a contract, they look for the right day. Try doing any business in India on a Tuesday. I mean, I'd like to know how many of you would be able to sign a contract in the country on a Tuesday. I am talking of science. Science as an enterprise to find out the truth about the universe through a method which is rigorous. I am interested in this science which is opposing religion, because people are constantly telling us that science does not give us values. It is religion which gives to us. And then they very happily quote Einstein and tell us that Einstein told us that religion without science is blind and science without religion is lame. But Einstein did not mean a book, a religion with a revealed book, a prophet and a God when he used the word religion. Einstein, in fact, himself wrote and clarified that when he said religion, he was a native German speaker, not an English speaker. He used the word religion to express the sense of wonderment he gets when he looks at the universe. That's what he meant by religion. He meant that rapture you get when you try to understand the universe and gain an understanding of it. And Einstein himself actually wrote that the idea of God is really something that belongs to the infancy of mankind, of humankind. So what would belong to the mature stage of humankind? What would belong to the mature stage of humankind is a mature humanism that will understand our common humanity and celebrate human creativity. It is something that shall defend human dignity, because it is the dignity of the human that is a foundation of human rights. It is on human rights which are universal, which is based again on the idea of human values, which are again universal, and science, which is again universal, that we can build a new conception of humanity, of society, of human relations, and of the universe. That is what humanism is all about. And I can be a humanist even if there were no religion in this world. As Bhaskar Garu pointed out again, when we are against one, we are against all. But there will be degrees of vicissitude that you would see in the practice of religion. And therefore, you might choose a particular practice of religion and highlight it in a particular context. Humanism is a positive outlook about humanity, about us finding our place in this vast universe. It is a speck, or even not a speck, in the grand scheme of the universe. And yet, look at how much the human has achieved. What a great understanding the human has got of the universe, of the human. And look at what a new world we have already built. on the contributions of the humanist viewpoint. All that is great and to be celebrated in human life has one or the other connection with the humanist and free thinking. It may be that that person in the past was not entirely of the humanist of the kind today's dictionary would describe, but these would be the people who would be the spiritual ancestors of the humanist tradition. Humanism is a human tradition. Humanists are children of reason. Humanists believe that all humans have to be equal, and they would like to take this moral idea and transform it into social institutions and social processes. The only way we can do it is through the establishment of a democratic system. Not democracy as merely a process, which is essential, but democracy as a system of values. Because the idea of democracy, so beautifully captured in the French Revolution, of the liberté, égalité, fraternité, liberty, freedom, égalité, equality. Equality is not a political concept. Equality of the humans is a moral concept. Fraternity. The French, using the male language that they use, have used fraternity to also include sorority, the equality of women, that we are all one. It's based on that. So democracy is not simply voting every 5 years. And a democracy recognizes the individual. Show me one religion which will recognize an individual. For religions, humans are groups, they are tribes, they are collectivities. But human rights cannot reside in a group, they have to be anchored in an individual. I don't care what the group is enjoying if I do not, if the individual is excluded from that freedom. Humanism is nothing if it is not the enterprise of freedom. Freedom not only from the tyranny and the despotism, be that of an economic ideology, be that of a religious ideology, or be that the tyranny of ignorance. Humanism is also for the growth of the human personality, of each of us, not simply the blanket all of us, of each of us. And we cannot grow as people if we are not assured and guaranteed the freedom of conscience. But how do we get a conscience? We get a conscience through the millions of years of biological evolution that happened, that let us tune to nature, that enabled biological life to live in the security of the group or of the herd, where functions were distributed and shared, and where in a collection we had the protection of the group, but also we had the support of the community. That is very crucial. Now, if we were to conceive of this new life, new world, then we are suddenly not tied down to this narrow identity of a caste, a subcaste, or even a nation. Once we have discovered our common humanity, what would a nation mean? What would it mean to say that I come from a caste? A caste is simply, how shall I put it? It's an endogamous group. Sociologists, and there are some in this room, will find the right word, but the social incest that we practice and give it some name and give it some position in our politics and in our social relations is meaningless and is detrimental to humanity. By the way, the one thing that women can be very happy about is whichever caste your parents belong to, you will always be a Shudra. There is that clarity about women's position. All women, whichever caste you're born in, are Shudras. And yet it is the women who are active participants in propagating this inhuman understanding, anti-human understanding of humans. But then women are guilty of many other things. They are the ones who stop going to the temple during their period because some man with a beard and no mind has said that you can't enter the temple. It is because some of us have willingly acquiesced to the dominance of the rascals that we are able to allow some things. That needs to be stopped. As humanists, what do we have to do with the rights of the women who are believers? We have everything to do. Because after all, atheism is simply our conclusion about God. That can't keep our identity alive. It is humanism that is our identity. And in humanism, we are not simply worried about the rights of the humanists. We are worried about the freedoms of all humans. If there is no one else working for the rights of the humanists, then we will focus our attention on that. But our sights are not as an interest group defending the rights of some. It's probably wrong to say some, because we are a lot of us, do you know? We are very ancient, as Bhaskar said. We are at least as old as the religions. That is why in each of their books they talk about us. In every religious book they speak about the non-believer. We've been there from then. From then till now, we have been keeping a tradition of dissent and challenge alive, a human-centered dissent and challenge. So we've been around for a long time. And we are not small in number, actually. If we were to make, as the Pew Foundation and others have done their surveys, if we were to look at the Netherlands, the majority of the people in the Netherlands identify themselves as humanists. The recent survey in Iceland has revealed that all people under the age of 25 believe that the human was not created by a God, but that we are all part of the grand evolution of biological life. Now that's fantastic. It's only 1850s that Darwin's book came out. Not that evolution was spoken of for the first time, but no one has given a proof of the claims of evolution as well and rigorously as Darwin has done. Darwin's own grandfather proposed evolution. A few hundred years before him, Da Vinci taught about it. 2000 years before him, already Aristotle, without drawing the necessary connection, classified life organisms. In 150 years, more and more things are happening in terms of the understanding, science-based understanding of the universe. Iceland is an example, Netherlands is another. In England, church buildings are being rented out to discotheques and bars because somebody has to pay for the heating, and God is not giving any. Religion is receding. Religion is receding, but in the minds of people, but it is hanging on to the privileges that the state has provided them. The state, in turn, led by demagogues, is promoting the religious beliefs of people. That is why humanists intervene when somebody, some religious political leader, is misusing the mechanism of the state to promote a private religious belief. That's the only reason we actually intervene. That is to preserve a social structure rather than fight a particular personal belief of any individual. So these would be the concerns of the humanist. The human, as Carl Sagan so eloquently said, every human is really stardust. We are all stardust. We are all children of reason. And we are all moral humans. And our morality is sourced in our biological instincts. We see that there are many monkeys and there are many herds of animals where the animals, the members of the herd, behave in a normal manner, normal in the sense they pursue their life's needs and their instincts, and beyond the marking of territory and the selection of the mate, there is no internal violence amongst animals. You don't see a lion killing a fellow lion beyond the marking of territory and the seeking of a partner. The same applies actually to almost all biological species. They had no Quran, Gita, Vedas or the Bible to tell them how to behave. That is part of the biological instinct, which is our heritage as animals, which is what we are. If we don't need a religion to explain the universe, and we can't have religion support our morality, then we do not have much use for it anymore. Beyond the celebration of personal rites of passage that could be at the time of birth or death or marriage. But humanists have found ways of celebrating our life events with music and poetry rather than verses from a dead language. If you go to any religious function which are organized to celebrate a life event anywhere, for example in the Indian community, what you will see is that there is someone who will celebrate the wedding in a language which is a dead language. It means nothing to anyone. And why is that a dead language? Because it's nobody's mother tongue anymore. A language which does not have a mother tongue status with any serious numbers of people is a dead language. It's time to upgrade our practices, our beliefs and our religions. And as we upgrade them, they would move towards humanism. The world today is built on humanist principles. It's just that many of us are still under the illusion that what is keeping it going is religion. You want to know what religion does to people? Take a look at Iran, Iraq. Take a look at the Middle East. Take a look at the world where religion dominates and religious leaders unelected by the people, all of them male, start dictating the direction of the world. Then we realize the value of the secular, of the humanist. Because we are based on facts. We have a morality which acknowledges the dignity and the equal dignity of all. Who fought slavery? There are claims made that it is the religious people who got slavery abolished. We don't have to believe that because it's a false claim made by them. What does the 10th commandment say? The 10th commandment tells us, asks us not to covet either the neighbor's wife or the neighbor's slave. It did not say do not have a slave. It simply said don't steal your neighbors. That can't be the basis of our morality. Which religious book has helped us shore up the modern morality of today? The modern morality of today is a morality of human rights. Which religion has made any contribution to the propagation of human rights? None of them. Which is why the United Nations documents do not mention religion, they mention rights. And the rights are universal. Tell me which religion is universal? They are all universalizing, but are they universal? They want you to convert. Some of them don't want you to convert. If I want to become a Hindu, which caste will you put me in? There isn't one, because I'm not born one. If I want to join, where will I go? There are some which are unwelcoming of the other, some which want to convert everyone to their own belief. But neither of these is universal. It is modern thinking, science, the positive morality of humanism, that is universal. That is not sectarian. that gives this grand vision of humanity as one family, which has its responsibilities. And the responsibilities are not simply to one another, but also to all life forms around, so that sustenance and thriving on the superb home where we were born can be taken further. All that is based on humanism. Along the way, we have a few people who will tell us that we are against them. Maybe we are, but not as individuals. Maybe they hold a belief which is contrary to ours, which is in conflict with ours. But it is in the contestation of ideas that new ideas and progress will be enabled. And humanists are willing to engage in that dialogue. Are we polite? I don't know, but we try not to be rude. We say to people, don't be little children and get offended when I express my views. When I have my meeting of humanists, don't think it's an attack on you. For us, a humanist meeting is a celebration of the greatness of the human, of the unique character of the human, of the achievement of the human. That's what a humanist meeting for us is. I want to conclude with these grand lines of Plato. Before I do that, I want to acknowledge here the presence of a friend in humanism, and a victim of religion. Something like 2001, I was working with my friends and colleagues and fellow human rights activists to liberate Dr. Yunus Sheikh from prison and from blasphemy death row in Pakistan. In the festering cells of fetid Islamabad was Dr. Yunus Sheikh, imprisoned and given the death penalty because apparently he said something against Islam. In Pakistan, as it is usual with the blasphemy laws, there is no degree of offense. If you have offended, then you will be given a mandatory death penalty. I led a world campaign to liberate Dr. Sheikh because on a cigarette pack, he wrote my email address and passed it on to somebody who was passing by in the court where he was being tried. And I felt morally obliged to do what I could to defend the basic freedoms of thought of a person. And while we were bringing people from all over the world into a major coalition to fight the government of Pakistan, and we had involved already the US Home Department, the French National Assembly, and it was a major campaign. Of the few people who then joined the campaign from South Asia or South Asian origin was Avijit Roy. Avijit Roy, through Mukto Mona, lent a hand to me, and he spread this campaign amongst the Bangladeshi community. Avijit Roy, sadly and condemnably and terrifyingly, was attacked last year in Bangladesh when he went to visit his family along with his wife, Bona. He was killed, but Bona escaped, and she is with us today here. Why did they attack him? Why are they so scared of us? They are scared because the light of reason and knowledge will make the darkness of their ignorance disappear. They are creatures of the dark who can't survive in the light. Avijit Roy, sadly, is not the only one. There have been many bloggers in Bangladesh who have been marked out to be the enemies of Islam, and the Al-Qaeda has published their names, that they would exterminate them wherever in the world they are. In India, 3 old men, people in their 80s and late 70s and late 60s, who were killed by young people on motorcycles when these old men were on a walk, because they felt intimidated by their articulation of reason and science. And they tell us that we are attacking them. They say that we are attacking them, whereas they are actually killing the humanists and the rationalists. We need to be aware of the resistance that the pursuit of truth can meet, and we should be prepared. Humanism is not about being cowardly about things. It's not about taking risks either, but it is for standing for who we are. Because those who stand for who they are the ones who have moved civilization forward. As Margaret Mead once said, it is only those who oppose the world who make it move forward. And we belong to that grand human tradition. When Giordano Bruno was taken to the stake, simply for this speculation and proposal that the universe could be infinite, the church asked him to recant and take back what he said. And when he refused, and they took him to the stake before they were going to kill him, they begged of him to accept that he was wrong, and he said he would not recant. And when he said he would not recant, and they tied him up, they gave him one last chance, and he looked them in the eye, and he said, "You who are giving me the death penalty are more scared than I who am receiving it." They cut his tongue and then they burnt him alive. That's the reaction of the religious people. So don't tell me science and religion are compatible. If they are, show me how they are. We are the enterprise of questions. They are the enterprise of answers. And they shall tolerate no deviation from their answers. Avijit Roy, Bona, and many of our friends, colleagues, they are all in this grand enterprise of civilization. That is what humanism is about. As one great man said to us, civilization is merely the interlude between 2 ice ages. It's not much more. We are finally, after all, a product of geography. But here is where we are, and we should not let darkness take over us. And I want to close with the great words of Plato. Plato, who never really stood for reason or for freedom, because Plato wanted to ban the poets, and on Plato's ideas was the ideas world built, which is not in a way compatible with the freedoms that we cherish. But Plato said this extraordinary thing. He said, and with that I want to end this, he said he is not worried about the children who are afraid of the dark. He said he is more worried about the adults who are afraid of the light. And it is that light that the humanist tradition wants to shine on the human condition and try to make it better. How much can we achieve? This much we should aspire to. That we shall leave the world a better place than the one in which we entered. That itself is a grand thing. Within our limitations, within our abilities, we should be able to do that little bit. Galileo did that for us. The Buddha did that for us. The Charvakas did that for us. They told Dharmaraja, do not fight the war. He killed them first before he killed the others. They stood for peace. They stood for common sense. They stood for the human and the possibility that humans can be great. And today, whether we start this meeting at Yamagandam time in defiance of the popular stupidity of the superstition of auspicious times, whether we have both beef and pork served at this meeting just to show that it is not the taboos of religion that bind us back or hold us back. We are doing that. We are offering defiance to unquestioned, unexamined beliefs and social systems. If we say that we are for human rights, we are offering a challenge to those who deny them. If we say we want the state and the religion to be separate, we talk about the secular state, but we go one step beyond and we are talking about the secular society, a separation of religion and ethics, a separation of religion and claims to knowledge, and therefore we de-link the privileges of religion and go to the sovereignty of the human. And the sovereignty of the human individual is the tradition of humanism. I hope through Saha, which is our common enterprise, and any humanist movement belongs to all, even those who do not completely agree with us. This is not an exclusive club. This is a group of people inviting others to participate in the development of humanity by bringing in their ideas, their views, their inputs, their time, their resources. It can't happen with 1 or 10 or 1 million. It requires all to participate. Because we don't change people, by the way. There is no humanist way where you tell people what they should do. They will do it themselves. You don't convert people to humanism, they become humanist. They discover the tools of reason and science, and they celebrate what they want to achieve, and that is what they do. It is freedom that we want, and freedom has this unique quality that it is not a destination that after 100 years you shall achieve it. Freedom is a path, and every step you take on the path of freedom, you have achieved that much of freedom. You have conquered that much of freedom. And it is an invitation to everyone who sympathetically looks at what we say, whether you completely agree with the humanist tradition or not, walk along with us on the path of freedom, and you humanize yourself and all society. Thank you very much.